NBC 10 breaking news.
How did it happen? Why was this train going more than 100 miles per hour, more than twice the speed limit, when it derailed?
You see this big flashlight come across the sky, so we're looking up, and then you hear boom.
Tonight, new details about the victims.
He was his high school valedictorian.
The man behind the controls and the technology that could have saved lives.
And you are looking live right now at the crash scene in Port Richmond. And we've learned in the last few minutes, crews have now removed 3 of the damaged rail cars from the tracks. Good evening and welcome to a special edition of NBC 10 News at 11. I'm Jim Rosenfield.
And I'm Jacqueline London, live in Port Richmond, the scene of the deadly Amtrak train derailment. Here is the very latest for you tonight. We're learning more about that train engineer identified as Brandon Bostien. He has worked for Amtrak since April 2009. And Philadelphia police confirm he has handed over his cell phone and provided a blood sample. Investigators say he reached speeds of 106 miles per hour. Police interviewed him earlier today and expect to talk to him more in the future. Police say as of right now, no one has been named a suspect in the investigation.
And Jacqueline is joined by a team of reporters tonight covering this story from every angle. We begin with the question, why the train was speeding in the first place. NBC 10's George Spencer live at the scene. And George, you've learned there are several possible explanations.
Yeah, Jim, experts tell me that these engineers really know their routes almost as well as you or I know our own driveway. More than 24 hours later, you can see in our live pictures that the investigative scene here is still active. And right now, experts are focusing their attention on the engineer's experience, his condition, and whether distraction could have played a role.
Trains come past this way or go this way?
Retired railroad signal foreman Harry Frickberg knows this stretch of tracks. For 45 years, he's lived across from it. A long straightaway just before the curve where the Amtrak train derailed. With engineer Brandon Bostien at the controls, investigators say. Frickberg tells us most trains pass cautiously, preparing for that turn. You're used to seeing them already slowed down here.
Oh, yeah. They're either slowed down or they're coming to slowing down to get into that curve.
But late today, federal investigators confirmed last night's train was traveling at 106 miles an hour as it entered the 50-mile-an-hour curve and crashed. Surveillance video obtained by NBC 10 shows the train speeding by and then 3 distinct flashes of light. Investigators say Bostien pulled an emergency brake seconds before, likely meaning he was conscious and not suffering a medical problem. So far, he hasn't explained the train's excessive speed.
Have we talked to the engineer? The answer to that is no, but we plan to. This person has gone through a very traumatic event.
Rail experts tell us the review may focus on 3 issues. The engineer's experience. How many times did he run this route? How well did he know that curve? Second, his condition. Was he fatigued or ill last night? And third, might he have been distracted while at the engine's controls? The so-called black boxes now being reviewed may answer that. Meanwhile, the NTSB will be here for a week, collecting what they call the perishable evidence that will fill in the gaps. In the meantime, the rail cars are being removed from this site. They will be reviewed both mechanically and structurally to see if those issues may have played any role in either the excessive speed or in the derailment itself. We're live tonight at the scene in Port Richmond. I'm George Spencer, NBC 10 News.
All right, George, and we want to give you a closer look at where this happened. The train was heading north into Frankfort Junction. From Skyforce 10, you can see the curve in the track. That's where the speed limit drops from 80 miles per hour to 50. It is also where the train ran off the tracks. And some insight about some of the terms we're using. Officials clarified today a conductor is responsible for overseeing the train's operations. He had surgery today. The engineer is the person who drives the train, and Brandon Bostien is his name. He's from Queens, New York. He was a conductor before he became an engineer, and he got a job with Amtrak right out of college. And we're also learning more about the 7 people who lost their lives in the derailment. Family members have identified 4 of them. The victims were a midshipman, a software architect, a CEO, and a businessman. NBC 10's Tim Furlong is live tonight in Center City, where other families are waiting for word on their missing loved ones. Tim.
And imagine that, Jim. The waiting and the wondering has got to be torture. Some of those families, as you say, are waiting it out here at this Marriott. But on some level, if you're still waiting, maybe that means there's a glimmer of hope that your loved one is still out there. Tonight, the family that had been searching desperately for Rachel Jacobs, well, they confirmed she is officially among those killed in the crash. The CEO and mother of a toddler killed when the train derailed.
He was wonderful. He was absolutely wonderful.
Susan Zemser knows how the Jacob family feels. She lost her son Justin in the wreck. The second-year Naval Academy midshipman was on the train going home to New York.
Everybody looked up to my son, and there's just no other words I could say.
Associated Press employee Jim Gaines was on his way home from meetings in D.C. The 48-year-old father of two was killed, as was Wells Fargo executive Abid Jolani.
It was pretty obvious that there was something wrong going into the curve.
David Hayes is the director of Philadelphia Sings. Like so many others, he was injured when the train started rolling and crushing into the ground. He wasn't hurt as badly as the award-winning chef owner of Fork at 3rd and Market in Philly. Tonight, Eli Culp is still in the hospital.
Please help me find my dad.
Then there are the missing, like that boy's dad. Bob Gildersleeve dropped his son off at La Crosse and then got on the train in Baltimore Tuesday night. His family has been handing out flyers and taking to social media, hoping someone knows where he is.
And the family of Rachel Jacobs sent out a statement over email a short while ago tonight saying this is an unthinkable tragedy. They say Rachel was a wonderful mom, daughter, sister, and wife who was devoted to her community and social justice. They say they can't imagine life without her. We're live in Center City tonight. I'm Tim Furlong, NBC 10 News.
The derailment injured more than 200 passengers. Some are spending a second night in the hospital. NBC's Dan Corcoran is live at Temple University Hospital. Dan, you found family members visiting their loved ones.
That's right. And at last check, 8 people still staying here listed in critical condition. That's of a total of 22 people that were involved in last night's crash that are still receiving care here tonight. Some of those patients are already talking to their lawyers. Nearly 24 people injured in last night's train crash are still here being treated at Temple University Hospital, including this man's sister.
She has broken ribs. She has fractured back. She's unable to eat.
Ken didn't tell us his last name, but he did tell us his sister was traveling from D.C. home to New York, riding in the second car at the time of impact.
What is she telling you? She's in a lot of pain.
She also sustained a laceration to her head and a punctured lung, he says. Relieved that his sister is okay, but angry about a crash he believes could have been prevented.
Not enough money is being spent on infrastructure, and not enough money is being spent to take care of the passengers who are on these trains.
Several of those passengers remain in critical condition even now. Also going inside this hospital, attorney Robert Mongazzulli, to meet with whom he calls prospective clients.
And for the people who've lost their loved ones, that's a terrible thing for them to ponder as they deal with their loss.
A little more than 24 hours after this incident, and people here are already looking to what's ahead.
They are taking very good care of her, and there'll be more procedures to look at tomorrow.
And that attorney tells us that he was actually asked to come here by some of the patients and their loved ones. He predicts that some of them are already considering taking some kind of legal action. Reporting live at University Hospital at Temple, I'm Dan Corcoran, NBC 10 News.
And it was just over 24 hours ago when we first saw the images of the mangled mess on the tracks. We want to show you what that image looks like right now. Live pictures from Skyforce 10. 24 hours ago, we did not know the extent, exactly how many casualties there would be, but we knew this was a tragedy with a long road to recovery, physically and emotionally. And the emotional toll is not just for those directly impacted, but also for residents in this area who say what they heard and saw will forever be etched in their memories.
All of a sudden we heard this deafening bang, and down there the whole sky lit up. Like, I bet you 5 miles up in the air. I never seen such a flash in my life.
There was a hole in the fence, and I just kicked it and went through because I thought, man, I got to go help somebody. And after getting through all the brush and coming up over that top of that hill, that's just, oh my God, dude. It looked like Beirut. Literally, it looked like a war zone.
Back up and keep working.
Yeah, I don't know what happened, man. I just know it was horrible.
But it sounded like a transformer exploding, a double crack. And I've heard from other people there were flames shooting very high in the sky, but I never saw that.
Did you run outside?
We looked outside, and it was just darkness at that point. 15 minutes later, the police and fire trucks are showing up. We know something very bad's happened.
And that gentleman is a mechanic whose shop here is right in the epicenter of all this activity that he says has paralyzed his business and made this entire neighborhood numb, having a far-reaching effect on everyone involved. We will have much more on this train derailment here in Port Richmond coming up in just a few minutes as the investigation continues. Jim, back to you.
Jacqueline, we'll see you in a few minutes. Back now, though, to Skyforce 10 and that live look at the wreckage. This derailment is having a ripple effect up and down the East Coast. Passengers have found themselves stranded because of the major service disruption. Some of them are still at 30th Street Station. And that's where NBC 10's Denise Nakano is joining us live. Denise?
Well, Jim, I spoke to a mother and daughter who are spending the night at 30th Street Station because of this derailment. They are among thousands who are impacted. A mom and daughter scrambled to find a way out of New York. Their original plan of taking Amtrak down the Northeast corridor met a detour caused by the deadly derailment.
We're going to be packed out. They said we can just lay up, make our bed right here.
The two will spend the night at 30th Street Station and leave first thing in the morning.
All tickets out.
Candace Joseph and her mom were fortunate to have a shorter delay, but getting to family in Harrisburg from New York had not been easy.
And when we got there, the line was really long to Philadelphia. I think they had to reroute another bus to come to Philadelphia to accommodate the people that were traveling from New York.
Amtrak warned there will be no service between Philadelphia and New York until further notice. Greyhound, New Jersey Transit, and Megabus will honor Amtrak tickets.
I think that the impact is going to be much greater than they expect.
Michael Spina rides SEPTA's Trenton line, which is shut down since it shares the railroad with Amtrak. SEPTA is revamping regional rail routes starting tomorrow morning, adding more trains, expanding service on the West Trenton line, and providing shuttles to the Frankfurt Transportation Center.
We won't stop traveling, but, it was just a very misfortunate thing that happened.
And you'll start seeing the SEPTA changes tomorrow morning at 5:30, including SEPTA ambassadors who will be on hand to help out riders. These changes are expected to be in effect for a week. Reporting live outside 30th Street Station, I'm Denise Nakano, NBC 10 News.
And a long week it will be, Denise, for those people. And count on NBC 10 for continuing coverage of the deadly derailment. Right now, you can visit NBC10.com for detailed information on the Amtrak and SEPTA changes. To more breaking news now from Montgomery County. The Pennsylvania Turnpike is closed right now in Upper Dublin because of this overturned tractor trailer. This is near the Mid-County interchange. You can see from Skyforce 10 that the cab of the truck, it's on one side of the turnpike and the trailer is on the other. The truck's driver went to the hospital. Amazingly, he's expected to be okay. Back now to a live picture from Skyforce 10. We're still gathering new information about the deadly train derailment in Port Richmond. Up next, the technology designed to prevent an accident like this and why it was missing in this case.
You're watching continuing coverage of the deadly derailment on NBC 10 and NBC10.com.
Here's what's new in the deadly derailment of that Amtrak train in Philadelphia. The train's engineer has handed over his cell phone and also given police a blood sample. Authorities say they still have not accounted for all 243 people who were on board the train. The number dead still stands at 7, and we have the names of 4 of those 7, but we are still waiting for confirmation on the identities of the other 3. And with that, let's go back out to Jacqueline.
Jim, the NTSB will remain on this scene for at least a week, combing through the wreckage. They say their mission is not only to learn what happened, but why it happened, to try to prevent it from ever happening again. NBC 10's Keith Jones is joining me now. There's been a lot of discussion about the infrastructure and the aging of those tracks today.
That's right, Jackie. We learned that a new safety system could have saved the train here behind us. The NTSB even telling us that it was not installed in the tracks right here behind us. So tonight, we asked the question to investigators and the governor. We asked them why. Twisted steel, mangled train cars, utter devastation.
I have never, ever seen anything like this in my life.
I spoke with Governor Tom Wolf after he toured the wreckage. The NTSB told him this all could have been prevented by a sophisticated system of sensors on the rails and inside the engine car called Positive Train Control, or PTC. If a train is too fast, the computer warns the crew. If the crew doesn't slow the train, the computer activates the brakes.
This is exactly the type of incident that PTC is designed to prevent. And so we have seen this before, and we will continue to see it again until PTC is installed.
All U.S. railroads are required by law to install PTC by the end of the year. The NTSB says while the tracks in the Northeast Corridor have been updated, crews hadn't gotten to this curve yet. Are you going to work to change that?
Well, I think you know I'm working very hard on railroad safety in general, and we need to think about how we can prevent accidents in general.
Other lawmakers I spoke with want to know why the train was traveling at 106 miles an hour.
Then we'll have a well-informed ability to make a judgment. At this point, it's really too soon for me to speculate on what exactly caused the accident.
And Senator Toomey actually told me he'd taken that train, the very train that crashed here behind us, many, many times before. He says he's going to work with the federal government to make sure that accidents like these don't happen again, Jackie.
And Mayor Nutter says this will be a long investigation. He is not putting a timeline yet on its completion. We know that the National Transportation and Safety Board will have another update for us tomorrow. Jim, back to you.
All right, Jacqueline and Keith, thank you. And this is not the first deadly derailment to happen at the Frankfurt Junction. Right now on NBC10.com, you can learn more about a similar accident that happened during World War II. Other news tonight, an NBC 10 exclusive polling Philadelphia. Right now, your first independent look inside the race for mayor. NBC 10 teamed up with the Inquirer, Daily News, and Philly.com to bring you the only independent poll of voters. And take a look. When 600 Democratic voters were asked who they would vote for today, Jim Kenney came out as the front runner, and it is not close. Kenney has 42%. Lynn Abraham and Anthony Williams both have 15%. The three others, they're under 5%. NBC 10 investigator Harry Hairston breaks down the numbers.
I'm very surprised that the margin is that large between the presumed frontrunners and the frontrunners based on this poll, Jim Kenney and Tony Williams.
Former mayoral candidate Ken Trujillo says the poll also suggests it's a new day of sorts in Philadelphia politics.
The one thing that this poll tells me more than anything else is that the whole narrative that this is that Philadelphia votes on the base of race is I think out the door.
Trujillo tells us it appears people are voting on common interest, not race.
It's likely that you're going to have the white candidate get, one of the white candidates get more African American votes than any other than the African American candidate. It's likely that a white candidate is going to have more Latino votes than the Latino candidate.
Jim Kenney is leading the way with black votes, and Lynn Abraham with Hispanic votes.
What do you do if you're trying to catch up?
Well, I think at this point, look, we're less than a week away, and all the money that's going to be spent on television has been spent on television. So I think the only thing left for a Williams or an Abraham campaign is the ground game, and they'd have to have an extraordinary ground effort to make up the ground. I think it's impossible to make up this kind of ground, however.
Kenney gets high marks with 70% of those polled in the city's northwest, northeast, and center city. Abraham scores low among 18 to 34-year-olds with 33%, and Williams fares low in center city with only 28%.
Now, your NBC 10 First Alert weather with meteorologist Sheena Parveen.
Well, you did notice it was cooler outside today, but it was dry. Now, tomorrow morning, it's going to be cooler than it was this morning. You may need a light jacket tomorrow morning. The rest of the week stays dry. However, going into the weekend, we are tracking some showers in the forecast. So future weather here does keep us dry as we go into tomorrow. Cooler to start your day, so temperatures will be mainly in the 40s when you wake up. Afternoon, sunny and dry. Friday, however, more clouds move in, but we still expect to be dry. Now, overnight Friday into Saturday morning, we could see some showers move through. This is 5 o'clock in the morning Saturday, and so far it does look like a good portion of Saturday could be rain free. We'll just see those clouds around too, and temperatures will start to warm up quite a bit. Now for tonight, it will be cooler as you wake up tomorrow morning. 40 for the low in Allentown and Quakertown, mid 40s Norristown, upper 40s Philadelphia area, closer to the shore, mid 40s, 47 for the morning low in Dover. Afternoon highs right around 70 degrees. It will be sunny with low humidity. Going into Friday, mid 70s across the weekend. We warm up mid to upper 80s, and we're watching for the chance for at least some showers.
And we'll be right back with continuing coverage on the deadly derailment, including a tribute to the victims tonight. The Phillies are offering their condolences to the victims of the deadly Amtrak train derailment. The team tweeting out this photo as it held a moment of silence before tonight's game against the Pirates at Citizens Bank Park. An exterminator convicted of killing a local pediatrician is going to prison for life. A jury convicted Jason Smith of murder in the first degree today. He was immediately sentenced to life in prison without parole. Authorities say Smith strangled Dr. Melissa Ketenuti, then tied her up with equestrian gear and set her on fire. Ketenuti worked at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. The murder happened in January of 2013 after prosecutors say Ketenuti questioned the exterminator's work. Smith claimed police coerced him into confessing, but on jailhouse tapes, he joked with his girlfriend about the trial's strategy. It was 30 years ago today that the Move bombing left a West Philadelphia neighborhood in ruins. Police were trying to end a standoff when they dropped a bomb on a house occupied by members of the group called Move. NBC 10 photographer Pete Kane was rolling as the bombing happened. The resulting fire killed 6 adults, 5 children, and burned down an entire neighborhood. We'll be right back. And here's the latest in the deadly derailment of that Amtrak train in Philadelphia. We're learning more about the train engineer identified as Brandon Bastian. Philadelphia police confirming tonight he's handed over his cell phone and provided a blood sample. Investigators say his train reached speeds of 106 miles per hour. Skyforce 10 has been overhead tonight as crews removed 3 of the damaged rail cars from the track. Meanwhile, authorities say they still have not accounted for all 243 people who were on board. And the number of dead stands at 7. We'll have the latest on NBC 10 News today, starting at 4 a.m. Gina, it's going to be a cool morning.
It is going to be cooler tomorrow morning, so it's going to be the type of morning where you might need a light jacket when you step outside. You might be surprised how cool it'll be in the morning. Temperatures in the 40s, about the upper 40s around Philadelphia, low 40s areas north and west. And in the afternoon, it's going to feel like spring. 71 degrees, our average high 73. It's going to be sunny. And then as we go into the weekend, we'll be tracking any showers. Temperatures warm into the 80s.
That's NBC 10 News at 11. I'm Jim Rosenfield for Jacqueline, Sheena, and all of us here. Thank you for watching. Good night.